Good. Everyone, today I want to talk about something simple yet powerful, focusing on yourself. In a world that constantly pulls our attention in every direction, social media, other people's opinions, comparisons, expectations, it's easy to lose sight of the one person who truly matters. We often hear things like support others, be there for your team, or put others first. And yes, those are beautiful values. But there is a fine line between being selfless and losing yourself completely. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give your best to the world if you are running on empty. One of the most important lessons you can learn in life is this: you are your own responsibility. It sounds simple, but truly understanding and embodying this principle can completely transform the way you live, think, and grow. It means taking full ownership of your choices, your mindset, your growth, and your happiness without placing blame on others, without waiting for someone to come and fix things, and without expecting the world to cater to your needs. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that our circumstances define us, that we are who we are because of our upbringing, our environment, our past relationships, or the opportunities we did or didn't get. And while those things undoubtedly shape us, they do not have to control us. At some point, we must draw the line between what happened to us and what we choose to do about it now. Responsibility doesn't mean fault. You may not be responsible for everything that's happened to you in the past. People may hurt you, life may have thrown unexpected challenges your way, and you might have started at a disadvantage. But taking responsibility means acknowledging that your healing, your progress, and your future are now in your hands. No one else can take those steps for you. No one else can build the life you want. Only you can. When you fully accept that your life is your own responsibility, something powerful happens. You stop waiting. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, the right person, or some external sign that it's time to move forward. You stop relying on others to give you permission to dream, to act, or to be who you want to be. You realize that the most important permission you'll ever need is your own. This mindset isn't about becoming isolated or refusing help. In fact, it's the opposite. When you own your responsibility, you're more likely to seek support in healthy ways. You're more intentional about who you let into your life. You start choosing people, habits, and environments that support your goals instead of ones that sabotage them. You become more mindful of your energy, your time, and your focus because you understand they are precious and they are yours to manage. You also begin to shift from a victim mindset to a growth mindset. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow from this?" That shift is everything. It empowers you to take control of the narrative, even in difficult times. It doesn't mean denying pain or pretending to be positive all the time. It means being honest about where you are, while refusing to let that place define where you're going. Accepting responsibility also means being accountable. If you mess up, you own it. If you procrastinate, you recognize it. If you're stuck, you don't just point fingers, you look inward and ask what needs to change. This kind of radical honesty can be uncomfortable, but it's also freeing, because once you stop lying to yourself or blaming the world, you'll begin to see what's really possible for you. There's also peace and responsibility. When you're no longer dependent on others for your happiness or validation, you become more grounded. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't chase approval. You begin to trust your own voice, your own path, and your own timing. And that quiet confidence becomes the foundation for everything else you build. Taking responsibility for your life doesn't mean you'll never feel lost, overwhelmed, or unsure. It means that even in those moments, you come back to yourself. You remind yourself that you are capable, that your actions matter, that your future depends on what you do, not what others think, not what happened yesterday, and not what you fear might go wrong. It's not always easy to carry the weight of your own life, but it's worth it. Because when you do, you realize that you are far more powerful than you ever imagined. You stop looking outside of yourself for answers, and instead, you start creating them. And that is the beginning of real change. So take a deep breath, look in the mirror, and remind yourself, this is my life. I am responsible for it, and I have what it takes to make it meaningful. We live in a time where comparison is almost second nature. It's as easy as a scroll, a glance, a click. Every day, we are exposed to carefully curated glimpses of other people's lives, photos of perfect vacation, stories of career success, images of toned bodies, smiling relationships, and flawless achievements. It's everywhere. And without even realizing it, we start measuring our own worth against someone else's highlight reel. But the truth is, comparison is one of the fastest ways to drain your joy, your motivation, and your peace of mind. It whispers that you're not enough, that you should be further ahead, that your progress is too slow, your wins too small, your life too ordinary. It takes what you once felt proud of and makes you question it. Suddenly, what once felt like a step forward now feels like not good enough. And that quiet sense of self-pride is replaced with silent dissatisfaction. What makes comparison so dangerous is that it's often invisible. It creeps in subtly, disguising itself as ambition or inspiration. But instead of pushing you forward in a healthy way, it pulls you into a toxic cycle of self-doubt and inadequacy. You start focusing more on what others are doing than what you're doing. You lose sight of your own goals because you're too busy chasing someone else's version of success. What we often forget is that every person's journey is different. People have different starting points, different backgrounds, different struggles, and different timelines. You cannot compare your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 20. You don't know what battles they fought, what sacrifices they've made, or what pain they hide behind their achievements. Just because someone makes something look easy doesn't mean it was. And just because your path looks different doesn't mean it's wrong. When you compare yourself to others, you rob yourself of the chance to feel grateful for where you are. Gratitude and comparison cannot exist in the same space. One builds joy, the other slowly destroys it. Every time you choose to compare, you overlook the progress you've made, the obstacles you've overcome, and the uniqueness of your own story. You begin to feel stuck, not because you aren't moving, but because you're constantly looking sideways instead of forward. To focus on yourself, you need to turn down the noise. You need to catch yourself in those moments when comparison sneaks in and ask, is this helping me grow, or is it distracting me from what matters? Most of the time, comparison doesn't push us to be better. It pushes us to be someone we're not. It creates pressure to keep up, to impress, to compete. And in doing so, it takes you further away from your authentic self. The most meaningful progress happens when you stay in your lane and run your own race. When you stop looking sideways and start looking inward. When you learn to appreciate your pace, your process, and your progress. Some people peak early, some bloom late, some take the direct path, others take the long way around. There's no right way to grow. There's only your way. The more you focus on yourself, the more freedom you gain. Freedom to try, to fail, to evolve without fear of falling behind. You start measuring success not by how others are doing, but by how much closer you are to becoming the person you want to be. You start setting goals that align with your values, not ones that are designed to impress others. And you begin to see that your journey has worth, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. One of the best things you can do for your mental and emotional well-being is to release the habit of comparison. It won't happen overnight. It's something you have to catch, challenge, and reframe again and again. But with practice, you'll start to notice how much more peaceful your life becomes when your focus is on growth rather than competition. You deserve to feel proud of yourself, not just when you win big, but when you take even the smallest step forward. You deserve to wake up feeling enough, even if you're still a work in progress, because you are. We all are. And that's okay. So the next time you feel yourself slipping into comparison, pause, take a breath, and bring your focus back to where it belongs on your own path, your own pace, and your own potential. That's where real joy lives. That's where real fulfillment begins. One of the most powerful forms of self-respect is learning how to set boundaries. It might sound simple, just say no, just speak up, just walk away. But in practice, it could be one of the hardest things to do. That's because many of us have been conditioned to believe that saying yes makes us kind, that agreeing makes us cooperative, and that being available all the time makes us valuable. But in truth, constantly saying yes to others while saying no to yourself slowly drains your energy, your clarity, and your sense of self. Setting boundaries isn't about being cold or shutting people out. It's about creating a healthy space between you and the things that overwhelm, exploit, or exhaust you. It's about identifying what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not. It's about deciding what deserves your time, energy, and emotional investment and what doesn't. Because the truth is, your energy is not infinite. You cannot give your best to others if you are constantly running on empty. Too often, people mistake boundaries for rejection. But boundaries aren't about rejecting others. They're about protecting yourself. When you say, I can't take this on right now, or that doesn't work for me, you're not being difficult, you're being honest. You're honoring your needs. You're recognizing your limits. And by doing so, you're showing up more authentically rather than saying yes out of guilt, fear, or pressure. Protecting your energy requires clarity. You need to understand what drains you and what fuels you. Maybe it's a relationship that feels one-sided, or a job that constantly invades your personal time. Maybe it's friends who only reach out when they need something, or family members who cross emotional lines without realizing it. Not every person or situation is toxic, but that doesn't mean it's right for you. Just because you've tolerated something in the past doesn't mean you have to continue doing so now. When you begin to set boundaries, it can feel uncomfortable. People may not understand at first. Some may push back, get defensive, or even accuse you of changing. And they're right, you are changing. You're learning to value yourself enough to stop stretching beyond your limits just to make others comfortable. You're shifting from people-pleasing to self-respecting. And that shift is often met with resistance, especially from those who benefited from your lack of boundaries. But here's the thing. Your job isn't to make everyone else happy. Your job is to take care of your own mental, emotional, and physical health. That doesn't mean you stop caring about others. It means you stop caring at the expense of yourself. You cannot keep saying yes to everything and expect to stay grounded. You cannot keep giving and giving while neglecting your own well-being. There is strength in saying no. There is strength in walking away from what doesn't serve you. And there is strength in choosing peace over people-pleasing. When you protect your energy, you protect your creativity, your presence, your joy, and your focus. You become more effective, not less. You become more available to the things that truly matter, because you're not constantly burned out from overcommitting to things that don't. Boundaries also teach others how to treat you. When you show up with clarity and consistency, you model what is and isn't acceptable. People may not always like it, but they will learn to respect it, or they will remove themselves, and that's okay too. You don't need to shrink yourself to be loved. The right people won't be threatened by your boundaries. They'll appreciate them. Setting boundaries isn't a one-time act. It's an ongoing practice. It requires courage, self-awareness, and sometimes uncomfortable conversations. But each time you choose to speak your truth, you reclaim a little more of your power. Each time you honor your limits, you build self-trust. And the more you trust yourself, the more peace you'll find within. So give yourself permission to rest when you're tired, to step back when you're overwhelmed, and to say no without explaining your entire life story. You are allowed to protect your space. You are allowed to prioritize your energy. You are allowed to exist without constantly justifying your needs. And most importantly, you are allowed to focus on yourself, not because others don't matter, but because you do. Personal growth doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't arrive in your life unannounced like a gift on your doorstep. It's not something you stumble into or passively receive. Growth is something you must choose, pursue, and nurture through consistent self-investment. And yet, so many people hope to evolve without effort. They want to feel better, do better, and be better without making time for the practices that bring those changes to life. Self-investment is the commitment to becoming a better version of yourself, not in comparison to anyone else, but in alignment with who you're meant to be. It's an ongoing process of learning, unlearning, healing, and expanding. And it requires you to put in the time, the energy, and sometimes even the money to support your evolution. There's no shortcut to it. No one can do it for you. It's a solo journey of honesty and effort. We invest in many things without hesitation: subscriptions, clothes, entertainment, even distractions. But when it comes to investing in ourselves, our minds, our skills, our healing, we often hesitate. Maybe we don't think we're worth it. Maybe we believe growth should be free and effortless. Or maybe we fear what we might uncover about ourselves when we dig deep. But the truth is, self-investment is one of the most valuable things you will ever do, because the return on that investment is your life. It might mean reading books that challenge your perspective. It might mean going to therapy or coaching to unpack years of emotional patterns. It might mean taking courses to develop new skills or journaling daily to build awareness. It might mean changing your habits, adjusting your environment, or spending time in silence so you can actually hear your own thoughts. These practices don't always look dramatic, but they are powerful. They are the quiet building blocks of long-term transformation. Growth also requires emotional investment. You have to face the parts of yourself that you've avoided, the insecurities, the wounds, the limiting beliefs. You have to be willing to sit with discomfort and move through it instead of numbing or ignoring it. That kind of self-work is not always fun, and it's rarely easy. But it's necessary, because true growth doesn't come from pretending to be okay. It comes from doing the work to actually become okay, from the inside out. One of the biggest signs of self-investment is how you spend your time. Are you using your time in ways that bring you closer to who you want to be? Or are you filling it with distractions that numb the discomfort of staying the same? Every day you have a choice. You can invest your time in things that develop you, or you can waste it on things that drain you. And while rest and fun are important, numbing and avoiding are not the same as recharging. You know the difference by how you feel afterward: empty or energized, distracted or clear. When you begin to invest in yourself consistently, you'll notice a shift. You'll begin to feel more in control, more grounded, more aligned. You'll stop waiting for others to fix things or for the perfect conditions to magically appear. You'll stop outsourcing your growth to external circumstances and start building it from within. And that's where real power lives, not in waiting for change to come, but in creating it. You'll also begin to trust yourself more as you show up for your own growth. You build self-respect. You begin to realize that you are capable of change, that you are allowed to evolve, that the person you were yesterday doesn't have to dictate the person you become tomorrow. And this realization gives you freedom, the freedom to shift directions, to start fresh, to rise higher. People who grow consistently are not necessarily the smartest, the most talented, or the luckiest. They are the ones who stay curious, the ones who keep learning, the ones who don't give up on themselves, even when it's hard. And most importantly, they are the ones who understand that they are worth the time and energy it takes to grow. So if you want your life to change, if you want to feel more fulfilled, more focused, more alive, start with yourself. Invest in your peace. Invest in your healing. Invest in your potential. No one else will ever walk your path the way you do. Make sure you are preparing yourself for it with intention and care, because the life you dream of is built on the foundation of the work you are willing to do today. Confidence is not something you're born with. It's not a trait reserved for the loudest voice in the room or the most outgoing person in the crowd. True confidence is built not in a single moment, but over time. And the foundation of that confidence begins with focusing on yourself. When you stop chasing validation from others and start learning how to validate yourself, everything changes. You become less dependent on external approval and more rooted in your own sense of worth. Most people look for confidence in the wrong places. They think it comes from looking a certain way, achieving a particular goal, or being accepted by a group. They think if I just had this or looked like that or did what they did, I'd feel better about myself. But those things, while they might bring temporary boosts, are not sustainable sources of self-assurance. The truth is, if your confidence depends on things outside of you, it will crumble the moment those things shift. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean isolating yourself or becoming self-absorbed. It means turning your attention inward and beginning to understand who you are without the noise of comparison, expectation, or distraction. It means getting clear on your values, your strengths, and even your weaknesses, not so you can hide them, but so you can work with them. When you know yourself deeply, you stop needing others to tell you who you are. You become your own source of validation. When you begin to focus inward, you start noticing how much time you spent trying to meet the expectations of others. Whether it's parents, peers, bosses, or social media, so many of us shape ourselves based on how we want to be perceived rather than how we truly feel. That disconnection between who we are and who we pretend to be is where insecurity grows. But when you align your actions with your authentic self, even if it means going against the grain, your confidence begins to rise. One of the most empowering parts of self-focus is learning to keep the promises you make to yourself. Every time you set a goal and take action toward it, even in small ways, you strengthen your self-trust. That trust is the backbone of confidence. It says, I know I can count on myself. I don't need perfect conditions. I don't need everyone to believe in me. I believe in me. And that belief can carry you through uncertainty, rejection, and setbacks because it's not based on external circumstances. Focusing on yourself also allows you to grow at your own pace. You stop rushing to keep up with someone else's timeline and start honoring your own rhythm. You stop feeling behind and start feeling in control. Confidence doesn't come from being the fastest or the first. It comes from being grounded in where you are and where you're headed, even when you're not where you want to be yet. Simply knowing you're on your own path can give you a sense of peace and power. In a world where opinions are everywhere, focusing on yourself teaches you to listen to your own voice first. It doesn't mean you ignore feedback or refuse to grow. It means you weigh what others say against what you know to be true for you. And the more you do that, the louder your inner voice becomes. That voice becomes your guide, your anchor. It reminds you of who you are when the world tries to convince you otherwise. Confidence isn't about being right all the time or never failing. It's about knowing that you can handle being wrong and that failure isn't the end. It's part of the journey. When you focus on yourself, you learn resilience. You begin to see mistakes not as proof that you're not good enough, but as opportunities to learn and grow. You stop fearing imperfection and start embracing the process. In the end, the more you focus on yourself, the more you realize that confidence is quiet. It doesn't need to be announced. It doesn't seek applause. It simply exists within you, steady, calm, and unshaken by the opinions of others. It grows every time you show up for yourself, speak your truth, and honor your own worth. So if you want to feel more confident, don't chase it outside of yourself. Build it from within. Choose yourself daily, consistently, unapologetically. Not because you think you're better than others, but because you finally understand that you are enough just as you are, and you always have been. In a world full of shifting relationships, changing jobs, and unpredictable circumstances, one truth remains constant. You are the only person you will spend every moment of your life with. From the day you are born to the day your journey ends, you are your longest commitment. That simple fact holds incredible weight. Yet many of us spend more time tending to our obligations to others than nurturing the relationship we have with ourselves. We prioritize keeping promises to everyone else while constantly breaking the ones we make to ourselves. But the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of everything. It affects how you think, how you show up, how you love, how you work, and how you dream. When that relationship is neglected, every part of life begins to feel disconnected. When that relationship is honored and nurtured, life gains clarity, purpose, and peace. And honoring that relationship starts with recognizing that you matter, not just in moments of success or achievement, but always. You are with yourself in the quiet moments when no one is watching. You sit with your own thoughts late at night. You carry your own pain through the days when no one else sees it. You are your own companion through joy, heartbreak, failure, and growth. And for that reason alone, you owe it to yourself to be kind, patient, and intentional. You owe it to yourself to become someone you enjoy being with, someone you trust, someone you respect. We often look to others for validation, for love, for a sense of completeness. And while connection is vital, human beings are wired for it. It's dangerous to believe that anyone else can fill the void that only self-connection can heal. Relationships can end, people can leave, life can shift in ways you never expected. But the one person who will always be there is you. You are the one who picks yourself back up. You are the one who must face your own reflection. So why not build that relationship with the same care you give to your loved ones? When you begin to see yourself as a lifelong partner, you treat yourself differently. You stop speaking to yourself with harshness or ridicule and start replacing criticism with compassion. You stop abandoning your needs to meet everyone else's expectations and begin to listen to what your mind, body, and spirit actually need. You stop chasing perfection and begin to embrace progress. You realize that just like any other meaningful relationship, the one you have with yourself requires time, attention, forgiveness, and love. Loving yourself doesn't mean ignoring your flaws. It means accepting them as part of your humanity and choosing to grow from them. It means holding space for your mistakes without allowing them to define you. It means taking responsibility for your choices and learning from them, not punishing yourself for being imperfect. When you commit to yourself, you commit to evolving, not for anyone else, but because you know you deserve the life that comes from inner growth and self-trust. Self-commitment is also about consistency. It's easy to show up for yourself when you're motivated, when things are going well, or when you're seeing results. But true commitment means showing up even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, even when progress feels slow or invisible. It's about honoring your promises to yourself, not because someone is holding you accountable, but because you've chosen to become accountable to yourself. And just like in any long-term relationship, there will be ups and downs. You'll have days where you doubt yourself, where you feel lost, where you question your path. That's normal. Commitment doesn't mean constant confidence. It means staying with yourself through the doubt and reminding yourself that you're still worthy, even in the struggle. It means not giving up on yourself, no matter how long it takes to figure things out. At the end of the day, your life is shaped by how deeply you show up for yourself. Not just in your achievements, but in your daily choices. Not just in how you treat others, but in how you treat yourself when no one else is around. The more you commit to your own growth, peace, and well-being, the more you'll realize that everything you seek outside of yourself begins within. You are your longest commitment, so make it a good one. Choose to be loyal to your own journey. Choose to prioritize your health, your dreams, your voice. Choose to grow through what you go through. And above all, choose to stand by yourself, not just in moments of strength, but especially in moments of vulnerability. Because the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you build with you.